Every now and again, a film comes along that ticks every box in your comedic checklist. For me, Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping does just that. The film runs an incredibly lean 87 minutes and yet is stuffed to the brim with jokes that skewer every aspect of the music and entertainment industry, and countless cameos that continue to escalate in their absurdity. Add in a soundtrack that's as shockingly good as it is hilarious.
She said she wanted me to fuck her harder than the military. Fuck Bin Laden.
And you have a surefire hit. Right? The film is written by and stars Andy Sandberg, Akiva Schaffer, and Jorma Taccone of the Lonely Island fame, with Schaffer and Taccone also directing. Popstar follows Sandberg's fictional megastar Connor For Real, former member of pop rap group The Style Boys, now turned solo act, as he prepares to release his highly anticipated second album, and ultimately deals with the inevitable reckoning of stardom and ego. It's a natural escalation of the Lonely Island's work up to that point, building on their decades of experience in both music and comedy to create the ultimate mockumentary centered around the ultimate pop star in Connor For Real.
I think he's incredible. He really is the real deal.
Vince Mancini of Uproxx summed up Popstar's appeal pretty perfectly. That it is as stupid as it is relevant, and that layering of humour styles, insightful satire, no-holds-barred vulgarity, irresistible juvenilia, surreal pop art, timeless deadpan, are Popstar's hallmark. It's smart, dumb, silly, and gross in all the right ways. I loved it. But like similar films Walk Hard, The Dewey Cox Story, or The Lonely Island's own Hot Rod, Popstar was destined to be a cult classic rather than a box office success story. Opening only in North America and the United Kingdom for a handful of weeks, Popstar grossed only $9 million during its cinematic release, not even half of its $20 million budget. Sandberg told USA Today in 2017 regarding the film's release that it didn't come out the way we were hoping in terms of the theatre launch, but already the word of mouth in it has been wonderful. I've noticed, which is the ultimate dream, that other people who work in comedy have gone out of their way to tell us that they like it. So when a film like Popstar was genuinely well received by critics and found so many fans after its release, why did it actually bomb in the first place? Did it really deserve better, and has it found that recognition since? One of Popstar's core release issues comes down to how the film was marketed, both in general presentation and with who it's supposedly supposed to be spoofing. If you were to go by the film's initial promotional material, then that might seem fairly obvious. So Justin Bieber parody, right? The film's main poster is this gold-glittered piece featuring Andy Sandberg's Connor For Real in an outfit deliberately evocative of the Canadian pop star, and the title itself is an obvious play on the 2011 concert documentary Never Say Never. But that was never the Lonely Island's film. In an interview with Collider, Sandberg laid out the situation. The studio was very supportive, I'm not trying to talk bad about them, but the marketing department really wanted to lean into the Bieber aspect of it, and we did not at any point feel like what we were making was a Bieber movie. Popstar isn't really a critique of any specific celebrity like that, but rather a celebrity culture and the music industry as a whole.
Connor's music may not be what I listen to in my free time, but it seems to make so many people money.
With references stretching as far as the Beastie Boys, Macklemore, U2, Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, Katy Perry, Nicki Minaj, and even Insane Clown Posse. Connor For Real's rise to stardom more mirrors that of Beyoncé or Justin Timberlake as they grew beyond Destiny's Child and NSYNC, and his relationship with Jorma Taccone's Owen is evocative of Macklemore and producer Ryan Lewis. Popstar also leans into an element of celebrity culture definitely not unique to Bieber, the idea that modern artists are seen more as ambassadors for their personal brands, more interested in cultivating fans than the music. According to Sandberg, it's also about the relationship that musicians have with their fans now, and how genuine or for the sake of career that is, and how it affects their actual friendships and relationships in their lives.
He's painfully honest with his fans. Probably too honest, really. But they love him for it.
Yeah, just jacked it.
Sandberg even refuted the notion that the group had targeted Bieber specifically. It was not necessarily our preference for the marketing to be so Bieber-driven, and we really had no specific bone to pick with Bieber. We were really more interested in making something that was commenting on the pop machine and the music machine in general, and making crazy set pieces within that. And according to the trio, even just Never Stop Never Stopping as a title was something that, while they found it funny and agreed to it, did not come from them. As said by Sandberg, the working title of the movie for us was Connor For Real the whole time. Akiva Schaffer further described the way the studio went about marketing the film around that one specific artist. It's a movie that has like 10 jokes a minute. Let's say there's 500 jokes in the movie. 3 are directly pulled from him. You can probably find way more about other artists, but they put all 3 in every piece of marketing that there was. Even the 30-second ad had those 3 jokes, and they chose the one outfit he wore that was similar, the white outfit, which was the Never Say Never outfit. So what exactly is the big problem with pitching the movie in this particular direction? Well, Popstar is an R-rated, satirical mockumentary that is allegedly spoofing teen sensation Justin Bieber, which essentially aims the film at 2 conflicting demographics. The audience for something like Bieber's own Never Say Never or Katy Perry's Part of Me is unlikely to be the same audience as Dick in a Box or Jizz in My Pants. Vice versa, those who listen to The Lonely Island or watch mockumentaries probably don't really care about artists like Bieber all that much. Beyond the Bieber-shaped problem, the initial trailers didn't sell what the film was actually about, beyond just Connor for real. They set up the larger-than-life persona that is Connor, and show off just how many famous faces are in the movie, but there's no hook, just the concept of Connor. Arguably, the point of a trailer for a comedy movie is to highlight the comedy, but one of the reasons Popstar works as the film it is because of how Sandberg plays Connor. He captures everything and makes Connor the absolute worst.
Did you take a shit in the Anne Frank house?
Do not go in there. Woo! Ace Ventura.
But whilst also presenting a real vulnerability that always comes out at just the right moments to pull him back from the brink of true unlikableness.
I live for this music, and it can't go away.
There's a compelling tragedy to Connor's story, and overall his downward spiral and eventual redemption ties all the jokes together into an actual narrative with a surprising heart to it, and this side of the story is inevitably missing from the film's promotion. As a result, the trailers end up bearing more of a resemblance to a series of sketches or parody music videos, which is hardly unsurprising considering the Lonely Island's brand of comedy, or with how much of the film's cast is made up of SNL veterans. So while it might be funny, it risks not feeling like an actual movie to a lot of potential viewers, and thus doesn't leave the impression needed to get them into a cinema. A common theme across the marketing in general was treating it all as part of the joke, and as part of the gag it's all pretty brilliant. However, the drawback to this is that it's designed for quite a specific audience, with a certain style of humour, and relies on the average person knowing both who Andy Sandberg and the Lonely Island are, as well as Connor for real being faux real. And so to many potential audience members, what's being advertised isn't exactly clear.
Adam, you know this. Staring at yourself in the mirror, right? Where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sleepwalking through this. Nobody respects me.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Like, my
Totally.
songs don't hold up. I'm the worst coach on the show, and everybody thinks I'm a joke.
And for those who don't, for lack of a better term, immediately get the joke, then it simply passes by. And the thing is, with a substantial budget of $20 million, Popstar really couldn't afford people not getting the joke. The Lonely Island may be famous for creating viral videos from Threw It on the Ground, I Just Had Sex, and Jack Sparrow, but that doesn't mean one can expect Sandberg's appearances as Connor to go viral in the same way as I'm on a Boat.
I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Take a good hard look at the motherfucking boat. Yeah.
There's also an argument to be made about the difficulty in transitioning from television to film as a leading actor. Where television is a part of your routine, film is supposed to be an event, something worth paying extra and going out of your way for. So as much as Andy Sandberg is a talented leading man who does tremendous work in Popstar, he can also be found in Brooklyn Nine-Nine for 20-ish weeks of the year. And so for some, it dilutes the need to see him on the big screen. This isn't to say that actors like Sandberg can't successfully lead a major film, and I'm of the opinion that he definitely deserves to, especially after last year's very well received Palm Springs. The possible key is in offering something different to their usual performance, like Chris Pratt's turn from dim-witted goofball in Parks and Rec to an action hero in Guardians of the Galaxy. By comparison, Popstar is more of what you expect to see from Sandberg and the Lonely Island, and so while what we see is excellent, to many it's not an event. Popstar at least walks alongside esteemed company when it comes to deserving better at the box office. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, is one of the most notable examples. Another musical comedy that received a positive critical response, an eventual cult following, but flopped on release, with a $35 million budget but making only $20 million. Like Popstar, Walk Hard follows a superstar, this time played by John C. Reilly, who, also like Sandberg, can actually sing and perform, and actually did so as part of the marketing campaign. Walk Hard's bomb is still surprising considering the film's glowing reviews and the attachment of Judd Apatow, with his at the time recent successes of The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up. This lackluster box office performance has since been attributed to a combination of unfortunate competition at the box office and the musical biopic genre simply not being old or tired enough to be parodied at the time, considering that the film came out at the same time Marion Cotillard was winning an Oscar for musical biopic La Vie en Rose. And maybe the same goes for Popstar. The musical documentary just wasn't tired enough, or potentially even popular enough to begin with to get people's attention. This is Spinal Tap is another film whose similarity to Popstar makes it relevant, with the two films clearly coming from a similar inspirational place. Although Spinal Tap did significantly better during its theatrical release than Popstar, making $4.7 million in its North American draw compared to a $2 million budget and over a longer release window, it was still only a modest success, and didn't find its true audience until they hit home release. Whether this stronger performance was due to many cinema goers, Ozzy Osbourne included, believing that Spinal Tap was a real documentary rather than just a parody is hard to say. But it wouldn't be too surprising if this was part of the thinking behind Popstar's marketing, pushing Connor for real as a real public persona. Unfortunately, The Lonely Island are no strangers to this kind of reception. 2007's Hot Rod, directed by Schaffer and starring Sandberg and Taccone, was a critical and box office disappointment, but found legions of new fans years later. As Schaffer told Decider 10 years after its release, the DVD came out and a lot of people saw it because DVDs were still selling. Then it went into basic cable where it was lost for a bunch of years. Then it got on Netflix maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when all of a sudden it kinda cemented its place. Hot Rod was made when The Lonely Island had only been working with SNL for a year, still relatively new to the scene, and yet the film is still an undeniably good time. But by the time of Popstar, the group had absolutely found their voice, and the unique talents of the trio as both comics and musicians are central as to what makes Popstar so strong. Why only they could have made this film what it is. Rodney Rothman, a producer on Popstar and the future co-director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, described working with The Lonely Island. What I've learned from working with the guys is that they really operate 100% like a real group. They are a real group. Their skills are that of real musicians. They write all their stuff, they produce all their stuff, they draw beats from the same pool of producers and beat makers as any real artists. I even see Jorma doing shit in Pro Tools that I don't even understand, and he's directing a movie at the same time he's doing it. That's crazy. As much as Popstar's soundtrack is pointedly satirical and hysterically absurd in equal measure, as befitting a character like Connor for real,
I'm not gay, but if I was, I would want equal rights. I'm not gay, but if I were, I would marry who I like. You're harboring a fugitive, that ass, and my justice will be punitive. I'm a smash.
Fuck off. You can teach me shit, and if I was you, I would slit my wrist.
they're also just good songs that sell the film as more than just a musical gag. Mona Lisa especially is a damn classic. It honestly comes up regularly in my Spotify, and I love it.
Mona Lisa, you're worse than the pyramids.
Popstar is as much a film as it is a fourth album for the trio. But there's also elements of The Lonely Island's real experiences layered into the film, helping shape Popstar's emotional core. Connor's rise to stardom mirrors how Andy Sandberg had become, as admitted by Schaffer, more famous than me or Jorma. Though of course their real life relationship is far less dramatic. Rothman attests to this being an influence on the film. Connor is not Justin Timberlake, he really isn't. But it's that kind of paradigm, where a guy just went supernova and the other guys have had to deal with that in various ways. And I think on some level, the guys, The Lonely Island, are refracting a bit on what happened to them. Starting as a very by the seat of their pants raw comedy group, and then Andy in particular blew up. But the band's real history and its influence on the film is what gives it its ultimate heart. Connor's character arc reaches its natural conclusion when he and the Starboys make peace and just kick back as a group of friends to smoke weed and write music together, without the pressure of stardom or producers. And it's scenes like this where the real Lonely Island appear and evoke that simple yet effective nostalgia of just spending time with your best friends. Fortunately, Popstar has been able to find life after its release, because frankly, it deserves it. The film is so absurd yet so sharp and well written, and making it a mockumentary gives it an episodic structure that is the perfect vehicle for such a sketch-driven group. And as much as Popstar takes comedic aim at practically the whole music industry, the film is never particularly mean about it or anyone, proven especially with so many musicians appearing so clearly in on the joke.
I'm so humble. I instantly connected with that because I'm probably the most humble person that I know.
In fact, Sandberg, Schaffer and Taccone often make sure that Connor is always the butt of the joke, more so than whoever they are potentially aping. And even then, there's more to Connor than just being an amalgamation of celebrity jokes. That the film is mostly Connor's downward spiral makes it easy to sympathise with him, even if he definitely deserves the bed he's made for himself. And Sandberg still manages to make us root for him and his redemption.
Look at Connor and I see that 7-year-old scrub that I grew up with, and it's like, how could you be mad at a 7-year-old? It's crazy I spent so much time thinking about killing him.
I looked down, and in his bag, he had this book called How to Be a Better Friend. It was all dog-eared and scribbled on. It feels like he's really trying. And plus, it shows he knows how to read, which is really heartening.
Connor's primary flaw isn't maliciousness, it's ignorance. And so it doesn't simply paint celebrities as terrible people, showing instead how Connor for real, the star, is born from celebrity culture, from being surrounded by yes men and living a zero-consequence lifestyle. But Popstar really is a gift that keeps on giving. The supporting cast is absolutely stacked with some outstanding performances like Chris Redd's Hunter the Hungry.
I didn't do it. Or did I? Nah, I didn't. Or maybe I did. Not do it.
And even if most appearances are tragically brief,
welcome to the future, bitches.
Favorite free time thing is flatlining.
Okay, you go first. Kids first, and then moms.
they are always memorable.
Surprise, motherfucker. You watching my brand new show. Surprise, motherfucker. With Snoop Dogg. And motherfucker, you been surprised.
Tim Meadows in particular is an absolute scene stealer throughout the film as Connor and the Starboy's endlessly endearing manager Harry.
We broke up over creative differences. Each Tony had an exclamation point after their name, and I thought my name should have a question mark. So it will be Tony, 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 Tony. In hindsight, it was not my best decision.
Meadows was also a standout in Walk Hard, and if these films convince you of nothing else,
and you don't want no part of this shit.
And if you find yourself simply wanting more, the home release also comes with over an hour of deleted and alternate footage, including fully produced music videos for songs like Mona Lisa that barely appear in the film itself. It all looks suitably polished, most of it clearly cut very late in production to make the film as tight as possible, and so this extra content is a pretty perfect dessert to the film itself. Popstar may have struggled to make waves at the cinema, but it's arguably one of the strongest comedies of the last decade, and a wonderful culmination of the Lonely Island's career up to that point, and it deserves whatever resurgence it has since discovered on streaming. Sandberg laid out his own reasons that sum up the situation pretty neatly. I think some of it is when you put them out, some of it is the way they're represented in the PR stuff, some of it is just luck, some of it is just not the kind of thing people want to go to the theatre for whatever reason. This time, I feel we got really good reviews, which was unexpected because we thought we were making such a silly comedy. So I really couldn't say. If I knew the answer, I would have put out movies that made more money. Thanks for watching. Getting to talk about this film was an absolute pleasure, and I'd love to know your favourite moments in the comments. And if you haven't seen Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping yet, then I think you know what you need to go and do.
But you are gonna like it.
Wait, did you say are or aren't?
Are.
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and see you next time.